What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be breaking down for you 5 reasons why I switched from the Lumix S1 over to the Canon R6. Let's get into it. Reason number 1, the big one, autofocus. The Lumix wasn't ever bad, but it just wasn't ever great. Like, it was one of those autofocuses. It was at launch, they kind of like promised the world and delivered not the world. I mean, there was a big update that came just before I sold the camera, and it did improve eye autofocus a little bit, but it was still just light years behind what Canon and Sony and even Nikon are doing with their autofocus systems. And it just never gave you that like really confidence inspiring kind of feeling whenever you do like something like this and shoot an interview, or if you were just like out tracking somebody or following somebody. The dual pixel in the R6 is just light years ahead of anything that Panasonic was doing. They refuse to give up on this depth from defocus autofocus system that they use, and I think that was probably like the biggest crutch of that camera. So with the S1's autofocus in photo mode, it was good. It was decent to good, in kind of in that range. I mean, it was never like, it never completely washed out and missed somebody like crazy, but it was like when you were shooting people, it was slow to catch the eye. And on video, if you would do something like this, you would see like these lights, whoop, whoop, like this light in the background would constantly shift back and forth. And I know there's gonna be people out there that are like manual focus till the day I die. And being a sports shooter myself and shooting NFL games and stuff like that, 99% of what I shoot is manual focus. But for like this kind of stuff, I like having autofocus to just like, it's simple, it's easy, you set a camera up, you let it ride, and for that you just have to give it to Canon. Their autofocus is just significantly better than anything Panasonic's doing right now. All right, number 2, this kind of a weird one. It's more personal. 4K 60. So the 4K 60 in the Lumix S1 was good. The only real gripe I had with it is both these cameras have a bit of a crop. The Canon's is a 1.07 times crop. So it's like you go from like this to this. And so it's really insignificant. But the Lumix S1 has a 1.5 times crop when you're shooting in that 4K 60 mode. So essentially, you're turning a full frame camera into a Super 35. You're losing that like depth of field, and you're kind of just losing that full frame look. And me personally, if I'm not shooting in 4K 24, I'm shooting in 4K 60 for kind of what I shoot and do, and it's just perfect. And so having a camera that can shoot basically full frame 4K 60, big plus. All right, number 3, lens selection, the RF mount. So when the S1 was first announced, they also announced the L mount alliance. And for anybody that doesn't know, like, that was a partnership between Leica, Panasonic, and Sigma. And everybody was like, we're gonna take the L mount, which is Leica's developed a mount, and we're gonna make all of our cameras and all of our lenses match this mount. And in theory, like, that works, but the Leica lenses are just far too expensive for people like me and for most people out there. And then there's Sigma. Nothing against their lenses. I think they make some awesome lenses out there. I just have always been kind of leery about third party. Like, if I buy a Canon camera, I want Canon glass for it. If I have a Sony, I want Sony glass. And if I have a Panasonic, I want Panasonic glass. And so they were just very slow to release lenses. They came out with a 16-35, but it was an f4 and it wasn't stabilized. And as you can see right here, this I'm shooting on right now is the Canon 50, and this is if it focuses up. So that's this is the 15-35 f2.8, It's image stabilized, incredible lens. And then they have the 24-70 2.8 image stabilized, great lens. And then the 70-200 2.8 image stabilized. I mean, yeah, that's the holy trinity through and through. They're all 2.8, they're all image stabilized. Canon's 70-200 is like the smallest, most compact little beast of a lens. That's probably the next one that I'm gonna buy. For me, it's kind of also just like the super weird creative lenses that Canon's coming out with. Like they have that 28-70 f2, which is just a bowling ball of a lens. But I mean, you could legitimately replace primes with this one lens, and no other camera company at this point in time is making like more innovative lenses, in my opinion, than Canon. And so it's for that reason that I kind of really like the RF mount, and I like the direction that Canon's going with it. Point number 4, size and build of these cameras. So the Lumix S1 is just unapologetically big. I mean, it's a tank. Like you could club somebody with this thing and they're going down. Like it is a big camera. The lenses are big, and it's just, as a system, it's a big, heavy system. I've shot in like wildly varying conditions, like snow and ice, and then heat and rain. And I mean, the S1 really is a tank of a camera and a system, but it's heavy. It's almost a full pound heavier than what the R6 is. There's something about, like, I could be the only one. I don't know if I have like really big hands. I think they're normal size hands, but anytime I would hold the camera, you would have the shutter button here, and then this finger rests right under that shutter button. And on the S1, there's like a shelf with like texturing below it, and it would rub like the skin off of my hand if I was shooting for like a full day shoot. Like this finger was just having a bad time. And so I don't know if that's just, maybe I was doing it wrong, but it's happened multiple times. And just the grip is like, it's good, but it's just never been great. Like it never really contoured to your hand. In comparison, the R6, the first time I picked one up, somebody brought it to a shoot that I was on, and I like held it, and it was like, wow, this is nice. Like it feels like the perfect size. Like I think they got a good mixture. For me, the Sonys have always been too small. The S1 is just a hair too big, and the R6 and the R5 are just like that really sweet spot. Like they're big and chunky, but they're still light and nimble. And so for me, I was like, do you give up some weatherproofing for like some size and comfortability? And ultimately I decided that like, I don't shoot in the rain all that much. I don't shoot in the snow all that much. Like normally if I'm shooting, it's kind of nice out. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal to have this bulletproof camera. Last and not least, number 5, and it's less about the camera and more about the company behind the camera. So this is more about like investing in the future and investing in a company that I have like had a history with. So due to my job, I shoot almost daily with Canon C700s, which is like Canon's top line cinema camera. Great camera, absolutely love them. But when I first started in the business, my first ever commercial gigs were shooting with the Canon 5D Mark II. So this was back in like 2012. After that, I got a job working for a studio, and we had the Canon C300. And so that was like my first foray into like the Canon cinema line. And over the years, I've shot with like Reds, Aries, Sonys, and I've always come back to Canon as just like, it feels like home. Like the cameras are laid out really nice. The image quality is really great out of camera. You just throw a LUT on, a few tweaks here and there. Like the Sonys, nothing against Sony. They make a good camera. I like their Venice. I like their FX9s, but the color has just always been a little off for me. You got to play with it a little more. Airy, great camera, just very high end. Like expensive camera. And so the Canons have just been like that sweet middle ground. And obviously with the RF mount, this is something that Canon's going to be investing in heavily. They did so with the C70, and I think you're seeing that with like how successful that camera is. Like they're shipping a lot of units, and we're actually buying one ourselves. And I think like the RF line is just like that pivot for Canon right now. And so they're moving away from EF and they're moving towards RF. So getting something like the Canon R6, buying RF lenses like the 15 to 35, it's in more investing in the future. Like you're investing into a system that you know is going to be backed by like countless generations of cinema cameras, countless generations of stills cameras. So it's almost like buying those EF lenses way back when EF was like a new system. Like you're buying into a system that is small now, but is going to be huge down the line. And for me, it's about kind of investing in a company that's been there for me throughout my whole journey as like a cinematographer and a photographer. Like I got my start on a Canon. My first cinema camera was a Canon. What I shoot on now is Canons. And so getting an R6 for personal use, videos like this, kind of just messing around, like you're supporting something in a company that you believe in. And for me, that's really important. So that's it, guys. That's my 5 reasons why I personally switched. I'm sure your reasons are going to be different if you are switching. If you're not switching, I think the S1 is an incredible camera. I've used it for 2 years. I've shot countless weddings on it. I've done commercials on it. I've done photo shoots. I've done car shoots. I mean, you name it. I've shot a ton of stuff with it. I've shot stock photography and videography, and it's paid for itself over and over and over again. But just moving forward, the R6 made more sense for me. Investing in a company that I like, investing in a system that I think is good, investing in lenses that I find are fun and enjoyable. And so for me, it just made more sense. Let me know down below, like what system you shoot on. Are you Sony, Canon, whatever? If I can answer anything, just let me know. I'll try to answer any questions. Shoot me a DM. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.